Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coons. The white man to go nuts if he cash you. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
Queen.
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show, and also for those of you tuned in to the Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur TV show. Okay, so we're live on both channels. As you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channels if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen goes live. All right, everyone, please, let's get some fire emojis in the chat. All right, let's get fire emojis in the chat for Marcel Dixon, who is running for South Carolina's 6th district against the incumbent Jim Clyburn. Okay, everybody get those fire emojis in the chat so we can give him a big welcome. All right? Okay. Okay, hello, Silent D, Shoshana, Charlie, October, Pearly, Nebula, AB the Great, Warrior Status, One Who Cares, Jeremy, Opal, Ivy. Shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. Okay, so let's get it started. All right. So, hello, Marcel. I am so glad and thrilled to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Queen, and I guess that's you on the opening song, right?
Yes.
Sounds like a nice late 90s, early 2000s type rap song. Really nice.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So listen, I want you, before we get into, all the big questions, I'd like for you to give everybody, my viewers, a little history about the Gullah Geechee. Because I know those are your ancestors, and I know they were some fighters, honey, so that's where you get your fighting drive from. So give us a little history on that briefly.
Well, the Gullah Geechee people are descendants of Africans who were enslaved on predominantly the South Carolina and the Georgia coast, the coastal plains and the Sea Islands, but also northern Florida and a little tip of North Carolina in the south. But like I said, mainly the coastal plains of South Carolina and Georgia and the Sea Islands. And they came from mainly the Kingdom of Congo, which were the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, Congo, and Cameroon, those 4 nations. Then southern Nigeria, then the Senegambia, which is today modern Senegal, Gambia, and parts of Mali. And they were renowned for their ability to grow rice, animal husbandry, and irrigation. So because of the area being such infested with venomous snakes, gators, malaria, and being so hot and humid, the white enslavers will often go further inland during most of the year sometimes, but especially during the spring and the summer. And they will leave the extremely large and diverse Black population on the coastal plains, on the sea islands. So because we were so isolated and because we had that mixture of Africans from different parts of the continent, and then we had the violent imposition of English culture upon us, a Creole culture emerged, known as the Gullah Geechee. And you're right, we have a spirit of resistance. South Carolina is the state that had the most slave revolts, not only the most, but the largest. And not only that, we had what some people may call the Yamasee Wars, the Seminole Wars. I prefer to call them the Gullah Wars because Seminole is a misnomer. What happened was people, my ancestors in Georgia and South Carolina, started trying to escape down into Spanish-controlled Florida because the Spanish had a covenant, an arrangement where if a person was enslaved, made it to Spanish Florida, they were free as long as they took a vow to defend Spanish Florida from the British, the French. So they started fleeing to Florida. And the British military at first did not like that and went there to try to capture them, were not able to defeat them. Then when the U.S. became independent, the U.S. military tried and they failed as well. People call it the Seminole Wars, but that's a lie. It was called the Seminole Wars, and they were made this myth that they were Native Americans because they didn't want word to get out to South Carolina and Georgia. South Carolina, which had the largest Black population. People have to remember, South Carolina was the first colony state to become majority Black in 1703 and would stay majority Black longer than any other state in the Union. They didn't want word to get to the Black people there that they were unable to conquer these pretty much ragtag group of Black people living in the Florida wilderness. So they said it was Indians and called them Seminole. But the word Seminole really means just run away. So it was really Black Americans who were sometimes taking in Native Americans whom had seen their family members die from old world diseases. But Andrew Jackson, who's one of the most notorious enslavers, anti-Black bigots, wrote a memo saying that these are not Native Americans. These are absolutely Negroes. So the theory is that is where I get my fighting spirit from. And, we've never been defeated. So hopefully I'll be able to say the same thing in this race here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. So thanks for that bit of history. And you are going to be victorious. We're going to speak it into existence.
Speak that into existence. Thank you.
Now, so since Clyburn has been in office since 1993, what exactly has he done for his district other than hold this world famous fish fry?
I'm about to say once a year he holds a fish fry, and I can't really tell you what he's done for his district, but I can definitely tell you it's woefully insufficient when you have, as of 2021, 435 districts. I cannot even fathom that many districts. 435. How do you have the sixth poorest in the United States of America? So I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't done anything, but I can definitely say whatever he's done, it has not been enough. I can also say that his district is majority Black. 50 to 60%. And if you can't get resources into the infrastructure and businesses of your district, then you need to put the resources in the hands and pockets of the people in your district. His district is majority Black, yet look through his legislative history. You will not see one piece of legislation that is specifically for descendants of American slaves, or as I call them, freedmen, because that is our legislative term. Congress did the Freedmen Bureau Acts of 1865 and 1866. So we're legislatively called freedmen. Some people like the term foundational Black American, which is like a social equivalent. But he has not done anything specifically for us. And it's not like we're short of issues here. For example, land theft. Black Americans, freedmen, descendants of American slaves have, I don't want to say lost, we've had stolen 15 million acres of the 60 million acres of property that our ancestors were able to amass in spite of the lynch mobs, in spite of our successful towns and cities being destroyed, in spite of debtors' prisons and sharecropping and wage discrimination and race massacres, they were still able to get 15 million acres of property. From 1910 to 1997, we've lost all of it except for 1 million acres, to which we're barely holding on. So in the nation we built, we are almost landless. South Carolina is ground zero for land theft of Black Americans because of a system called heirs property. When a person owns a piece of property and they die without a will, remember, most Black Americans, especially coming out of slavery, could not afford a lawyer. In South Carolina, North Carolina, Louisiana, it was all but illegal for a Black American to consult with a lawyer. The lawyers that were available were mainly white. They would not work with Black Americans. And most Black Americans could not read or write. So when you leave your property intestate, which means that's without a will, you don't get the value from the property, and you have to share the property with the family. The problem is the property does not qualify for any federal loans or grants. So if something happens to it, the poorest families live on these type of properties, like a lot of people in my family do. You have to come up with the money to repair it. You can't build a home on it. The only thing you can put on it is a mobile home, which is why when you drive through parts of South Carolina, like my district, a lot of Black families live in mobile homes or trailers. But the real thing that destroys us is you don't get any value from the land. So Clyburn's district, which is a majority Black, has a lot of people whom in an equal, equitable society, we will be millionaires because of all this land we've had since the 1800s. But because of the system of heirs property, we can't get a certificate of equity on the land. The most we can do is put a mobile home on it. But because of that system of heirs property, one person used to be able to sell their share of the property. And then usually a rich white person can buy out the rest of the family by going to usually a racist judge who can say, okay, the property is only worth $10,000. It's 10,000. It's 10 people on the property. They each get 1,000. Get the hell on, and the property will really be worth $300,000. Those were called partition sales. It happened to us for decades. So many people woke up and were told, "Get gone." Nikki Haley, believe it or not, signed a bill putting an end to that. But the damage has been done, which is how Hilton Head Island went from being a community that was 90% Black to 90% white. Now, look through Clyburn's history. You won't find one piece of legislation he's written to do a damn thing on the federal government level about heirs property. That is an example of how whatever he's done, it ain't been enough. And whatever he's done nothing specific for the majority people in his district, which are Black Americans, freedmen.
Wow, that's really awful. Well, I did find out that he has actually sponsored the Catawba Indian Nations Land Act. And so he wants them to be able to start their casinos and all of that. So it looks like he's helping people, but just helping the wrong people.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that out for people who like to make excuses for this man and say, well, he's one man. He can't do anything. First of all, yes, one man can do a hell of a lot. Ask Frederick Douglass. Okay. Ask Martin Luther King Jr. One man can definitely do a lot. And none of those men I just named were in Congress. Clyburn is in Congress, and he's the most powerful Black American politician in the United States of America. He can do a whole lot. But just like you mentioned, the first thing he did, what you just mentioned, happened in 2021. The first thing he did when he entered office in 1993 was he sponsored a bill for those same Catawba Native Americans. He said because of the historical injustices they have faced, he wanted them to get special rights, privileges, recognitions, and protection. Anyone in the chat right now can look it up. 1993, one of the first bill Clyburn sponsored. Now, when you think of a group of people who have suffered historical injustices, the Catawba Native American is not who most people speak of. And they are definitely not the people who have gone through it the worst. That is us. But you won't find a piece of legislation he's done for us. Something else I want to say about the Catawba Native Americans is they have a very interesting history that people need to, of which people need to be aware. They weren't just any Native Americans. They were enslavers, and they were brutal enslavers. And not only were they enslavers, they were slave catchers. So brutal that if one of our people who were unfortunate enough to be captured, they will be outmanned and out-militarized. They were begged to go back to the white enslaver instead of with the brutal Catawba Native Americans. So for the people who enslaved our people to be the first group of people that Clyburn goes into Congress to make sure that they're protected, they get special rights, recognition, and privileges. He pretty much wrote a reparations bill for them. At that same time, Black Americans, us Gullah Geechee people, were being ran off of our sea islands in areas like the Fusky Island, from where my great-great-grandfather is from. Hilton Head Island, where my great-great-grandmother is from. Parts of Beaufort, where my great-grandmother is from. Bluffton, where my great-grandfather is from. We were being pretty much pushed off our lands, either through heirs' property, partition sales, or through the taxes being raised so high and us having nowhere to turn. That was happening in 1993. I was 7 years old. I remember it very well. Now, what you mentioned happened in 2021, just last year, with all of those Black Lives Matter protests. And when I say Black Lives Matter, not that lying, thieving organization, I'm talking about the movement. While all those organizations were happening throughout the whole world, you would think Clyburn would be more aware of standing up for Black people. What does he do? He writes another bill for the Catawba Native American. And guess what he did? He wrote it for them to get 20 acres of land. Now, here it is. We have lost 90% of our land stolen. We only have 1 million acres of rural land, Black Americans, all 50 million of us, 1 million acres of property. He writes a bill for people who used to enslave his people to get 20 acres of land so that they can build a multi-million-dollar casino on which they will pocket billions. Some Native American tribes get so much money from their casinos that every single tribe member, not family, but every single member in the tribe gets to pocket $1 million cash in their pockets. Y'all can look it up. I am not lying. Catawba Native Americans might very well be able to do the same thing. Meanwhile, according to one study, right before COVID-19 hit, Black Americans, our wealth was heading to zero by 2053. COVID has come in, wiped out 50% of our businesses, so we might already be there now. 15 to 20% of the population is Black in the United States of America, and we know they always undercount us. But right now, we are over 55% of the homeless. And yet he writes a bill for them to pocket billions from a casino. He still refuses to write a bill for us, even with the massacre that happened in Buffalo. That man won't even bring himself to say the word Black. When it happened to Asian Americans, he made a tweet that day saying that anti-Asian American hate was despicable. Those are his words. He said, we must protect Asian Americans. He then said we must pass the COVID-19 hate bill. That was the first thing he did. 10 of our brothers and sisters grocery shopping, a father buying a birthday cake for his 3-year-old son, a great-grandmother shopping for food that she prepared for community members at a food bank, gunned down like they were nothing just for the crime of being Black and shopping. He has not said the word Black yet. He has not put forth one policy specifically to protect us. No anti-Black American hate bill. If anyone votes for that man, we deserve what happens afterwards. If he gets back in office, we would deserve it.
Absolutely. And my question is, with the fact that it doesn't seem that he's been doing anything substantial or significant for Black people in South Carolina, I'm just wondering, who do you think are the people that are most likely to vote for him? The older people or the younger people? Because I would think that the younger people should know better. Sometimes older people are complacent.
Let me tell you, the biggest obstacle I face is not white Republicans. When I speak to white Republicans, and I mentioned reparations, I'm about reparations. I have other policies that are universal, but they know, people know me as the reparations guy. That's why I'm referred to sometimes. White Republicans either do three things. Either they walk off when they see me coming, or if I call, they hang up the phone, or either they just take my flyers and they just politely say thank you, because in the South, everyone's genteel in person. Or they will actually say, well, you know what? I don't think reparations is the best way to go. But the Democrats can put all this trillions of dollars to illegal immigrants and Ukrainians. They definitely need to be doing something for Black Americans. Y'all the one keep voting for them. And you know what's funny? I can't argue with them because they're right. They're right. If they can do it for the other groups, they can do it for us. Young people, pretty good. The only issue with my young people is getting them to hear me, which is why I'm just going to say this. If anybody's in the chat room, if you can donate, marcelforcongress.com/donate. That will help, because I have right now, Queen, and I love calling you Queen, by the way. I have a huge street team out on the streets right now. Some are volunteers, but at this point, some are taking time from their jobs. Some are taking time from their families. Some have to find childcare, and they would voluntarily do these things for me if they could afford to, but they can't. So I have to help these people because they're looking out for me. They're helping me. They're helping us. So if anyone can donate, the maximum is $2,900. The minimum is $5. Whatever you can do in between, I will be appreciated. But the young people are good. Only challenge with young people, and when I say young, I'm talking about from 18 to maybe 50. I will say, or 55, I will say, well, 50, because it starts to change after 50. I just have a hard time getting them to hear from me. It's hard to reach them because I'm in a rural area. So we go to shop and work and school in areas that's not where we live often. So it's hard to reach them. Older people, a lot of older Black women, once I speak to them, they're for me. Matter of fact, some older Black women, more than any other group, will ask me, give me more of those flyers. One older Black woman, when some people who were supporting me spoke to her at Clyburn's Fish Fry, and they showed her his record, because they showed her my little report card I have about him, which I know makes him big mad. She tore that sticker of his off. She said, give me those flyers, this young man. I'm going to tell my friends about him. I've seen so many older Black women. I call them my grandmothers. Some of them my great-grandmothers. I've seen them do it. I've seen them get on the phone and say, hey, y'all need to check this young man out. I've even seen some of them mention that their friend was going to donate to me. And at the end of the month, I guess when they get their check in, they have done it. I've seen the name. The biggest challenge I face are older Black men. 50% of them are down when they ride. When my grandfathers and great grandfathers, I call them, when they ride for me harder than anyone. They have my back. But the other 50%, their attitude is Clyburn must be protected at all costs. They don't care about the fact that in Clyburn's district, the average income is somewhere between it's $42,000 to $44,000, but for the average white citizen of my district, it's $56,000. For the average Black American, $28,000, and that's at the high end. So even in a district where we are the majority, we are to the bottom. They don't care about the fact that Clyburn's district has the highest eviction rate in the nation. In the nation, in the country, in the United States of America, the district where I live has the highest eviction rate. That doesn't bother them. They don't care about the fact that in one, and I'm in Columbia, South Carolina right now, the capital, a community here in Columbia, South Carolina has the worst medical outcome in the United States of America. More Black people here get their arms and legs chopped off than any other part of the United States of America. Y'all can Google it. And they call it amputee. There's the amputee Columbia, South Carolina, Black amputees. Look it up. They don't care about the fact that right here in Clyburn's district, we have the most toxic water, North Charleston, toxic water. In another community, Denmark, South Carolina, right by the county where James Brown, the musician, was born, hasn't had clean water in 10 years. They don't care about the fact that we have some of the worst schools in the nation, or some of our counties have over an 80% poverty rate for the Black Americans. Okay, in the school district where I teach, we have a 92% poverty rate. Okay, for the Black students there. According to these old men, that's not important. All that matters to them is we gotta protect Clyburn. They are my biggest challenge, because a lot of them are usually in charge of colleges, big churches. Some of them are in charge of other organizations in this area, and they protect Clyburn because they're loyal to him. They're not loyal to you. They're not loyal to our Black children. They're not loyal to our Black mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and friends. They are loyal to Clyburn. They are the same type who would have been selling us out on the plantation. And they think because they marched in the civil rights movement in 1960 something, that makes them exempt from criticism. Well, I'm here to say Janet Jackson said it best. What have you done for me lately? Dun, dun, ooh, yeah. I mean, Janet said it. Janet said it. I'm with Janet. What have you done for me lately? Not a damn thing. Because right now, we own less homes now than we did during Jim Crow. So you march in the civil rights movement, and we are worse off now than we were then.
Well, you know what I think it is? I think that some of them are stuck in that era. That's what I think it is. I think
exactly,
stuck, honey, and that's just what it is. And I also think that Clyburn is possibly greasing some people's palms. You know, and that's
yes,
absolutely. Well, we're gonna get him up out of there, whether he likes it or whether they like it or not. He's coming up out of there. Okay, he's gonna release that seat because he's been there for almost 30 years, and there have not been any drastic changes that I can see from the things that I've researched. And as far as the education system and the district that he's in having like a 92% poverty rate, that is really, really awful.
Oh, that's throughout the entire district. You can go to some Allendale County, South Carolina, Williamsburg County, South Carolina. They both are some of the poorest counties in the United States of America. Allendale County has a poverty rate of 68% overall, not even in school, overall. Williamsburg County, a poverty rate of 65%. The average poverty rate in the United States of America is 11%. That should tell you how drastically poor those areas are. And yet, some of these so-called brothers and sisters of ours, just because Clyburn's been good to them, because I'm not judging Clyburn personally. I don't know him personally. I'm judging him the way I should judge him politically. I am judging him based on his record. And you don't have to like it. But the same way someone says, I'm wearing a floral shirt right now, and I get mad, okay, I can get mad all I want. But the facts are the facts. The facts are the fact that his record has been awful. So I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying he hasn't done good things for some people. But just because he's been good to you, that's not good enough for us.
That's right. Absolutely. And like my grandmother used to always say, may the work that you've done speak for you. And so basically that's what's happening with him right now. The work that he has and hasn't done is definitely speaking. So now tell us why you're so big on reparations and, you know, Black Americans being repaired for the ills that have been perpetuated upon us. And also, if you could elaborate on why you think that we have never received any type of reparation.
So at the end of the Civil War, and I have a unique connection to this because we all know that, I'm looking at the comments now, and I see some people know about Williamsburg County. I see I have some South Carolinians in the building. Hey, y'all. Anyway, sorry. So anyway, the Special Field Order 15 happened in my birth city, Savannah, Georgia. I mean, where I live, the park where General Sherman and the 20 Black pastors met is like 25 minutes from my house in where I was born, Savannah, Georgia. Because I live in Jasper County, South Carolina, which is right across the bridge from Savannah, Georgia, on the border. And we were supposed to get 40 acres in a mule. That was one of the last legislative acts Abraham Lincoln did, but we know the story. He was assassinated, and then an anti-black, bigoted piece of caveman trash came and repelled it, Andrew Johnson. And instead of us getting 40 acres and a mule, instead of the Freedmen's Bureau, a department of the government that was supposed to protect us, make sure we was well fed, protected, housed, had good wages, health care, instead of them being allowed to do their job, Congress deliberately destroyed them. The Freedmen's Bank, which is when our ancestors, mainly our great-grandfathers, put the little bit of money they got from fighting in the Civil War, which keep in mind, Abraham Lincoln said without the Negro men, we would have lost the Civil War. They put in the Freedmen's Bank in order to build wealth. Congress deliberately destroyed it by corruption and scams. And then we were met with lynch mobs, debtors prison, sharecropping. In spite of that, in spite of all of that, in spite of us being illiterate, in spite of us being penniless, in spite of us being completely unprotected, we were still able to build over 50 Black Wall Streets. A huge percentage of them were destroyed by means of lynch mob violence. If they had been allowed to flourish, the one that we know about the most in Oklahoma, they said it was called the New York City of the Midwest. One on Florida called Overton, which they called the New York City of the South. That's what they were calling them. We built that. Had they been allowed to flourish, New York City would have looked like a one-stoplight town compared to what our ancestors built from nothing. But they were burnt to the ground. Then they topped that with redlining and Jim Crow. Why do I bring that up? I bring it up to say we have followed all the rules, okay? We pulled ourselves up by our bootless straps. Mm-hmm. We stayed out of trouble. They brought trouble to us, okay? When we went to school to get educated, they burnt our schools down, assassinated the teachers, or deprived us of the basic resources for us to even get the bare minimum or an adequately minimum education. When we were trying to buy homes, to build up wealth for our families, not even demanding reparations, they did redlining to either deny us for loans or to deprive our homes of the equity that we should have had. Jim Crow kicked us out of industries that we had even built, from opportunities to get jobs, to go to schools. And let's not even mention the violence. Even till this day, the PPP loans, Black Americans got 1% of the PPP loans, and still we started more new businesses than any other group. So we have always done the best, in spite of them always doing their best to terrorize us. Mm-hmm. And I haven't even mentioned some of the other things they did, such as leaving us out of the Homestead Act, which gave away hundreds of millions of acres to mainly white Americans. 48 to 60 million white families can trace their wealth to the Homestead Act, okay? And there were several of them. The GI Bill put trillions of dollars into white families, to white veterans from World War II. My great-grandfather is still alive. He's a World War II veteran. He didn't get a penny to leave to my grandmother or to my father, who's his grandson. My grandmother was his daughter. But the white people which she served alongside of, they were able to buy homes, open businesses, go to schools, get pensions, get health care, buy cars because of Congress putting money in their pockets. So when you look at us and the fact that we're even still here, it shows that we are an amazing people. But we can't out-amazing our way out of this hole that every time we crawled out of, they took a bigger shovel, hit us on the head with it, and dug the hole deeper. Mm-hmm. The only thing that is going to get us out this hole in which we were placed is reparations. And reparations does not come from any white person. I get tired of some white people listening, thinking that they're so important that we're asking them for money. No. Now, do you owe us? That's a conversation we could have. But reparations does not come from any white American. It comes from the federal government, the same federal government that put trillions of dollars into white Americans' pocket by giving them land, put trillions of dollars into their pocket via the GI Bill, that sent out trillions of dollars in stimulus checks and low taxations and mechanizing farmers, European immigrant farmers and white farmers. It comes from the federal government, because without reparations, it's not just about closing this gap. It's not about trying to be equal to white Americans. This is about us getting the debt that they owed us. Just because they didn't pay the debt doesn't mean the debt went away. Just like if I were to die and I have student loan debt, they're going to still be calling and harassing my family members trying to collect that debt. This country does not forget a debt. Likewise, we don't forget either. Just because you didn't pay it then, we've inherited the trauma, like a lot of white Americans have inherited the wealth. So this country, this government has inherited the debt. They can pay it. No one ever asks from where the money's going to come when they're spending trillions of dollars on wars, when they're sending out trillions of dollars in stimulus checks, when they're spending trillions of dollars to make vaccines, to distribute vaccines, when they're sending trillions of dollars to bail out the airline industry, the banking industry, the auto industry, when they're canceling that for large corporations. No one ever asks from where does the money come. They just sent over $1 trillion to Ukrainians in less than a month in direct aid and military. No one's asking for where the money's coming. So therefore, don't ask where the money's going to come when they pay us. Just know you owe us. You have the money. You can pay it. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because all these excuses, and them trying to act as though it's coming out of their pocket, their tax dollars.
And it's not.
That's just all cap. And like you said, they don't say any of that when money's going to all these foreign lands and things that have really nothing to do with us. I mean, let's not forget they spent $3.2 trillion or $2.3 trillion in Afghanistan for a 20
exactly.
Only to pull out, and the people
and the thing go right back to where it was. Exactly. Yeah. The difference is when they put money, first of all, I don't want to get too much into details, but the United States is a monetary sovereign. Because you got some people out there yelling, "Dad, deficit." The United States is a monetary sovereign, okay? Meaning it can create its own currency. You have several people who have been in charge of the Federal Reserve, which exists to make sure we don't fall into a financial ruin, that have said, Alan Greenspan, Ben Bernanke, those are the two I remember the most, that have said, the U.S. can never not be able to pay its bills. The U.S. can always pay its bills. What people call debt is when America, the federal government, spends more in money than they take back in taxes. But the federal government doesn't need taxes. The federal government is the one that creates the money that is used to do transactions that are taxed. So they don't need the taxes. They create the money. The state government needs it. But when the federal government spends more than it collects in taxes, they do what's called treasury bonds, which are yellow dollars. Banks buy these yellow dollars. Credit unions buy these yellow dollars. Other countries buy these yellow dollars. Even individuals can buy these yellow dollars. And a lot of individuals do, especially wealthy individuals. And what happens is the U.S. pays them interest on these yellow dollars. So as long as you have these yellow dollars, you will never, ever go broke because the U.S. will pay you interest. But whenever the U.S. gets tired of paying interest on it, they can say, give us our yellow dollars, here's your green dollars. So this whole debt thing is just an illusion that people like to scream when they don't want to pay Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves. I'm going up there and I'm not hearing any of the excuses. They can pay it. They just haven't had a leader who's going to stand up for Black Americans, like they stand up for Asian Americans, like they stand up for Ukrainians who aren't even Americans, aren't even our friends. Stand up to make them do it.
That's right. That is right. Okay, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm really proud of you, and I'm really glad and grateful that you're fighting for us to get repaired for all the wrongs that they have done, because somebody needs to. A lot of these other people seem to have sold us out, and they seem to only be interested in what they can get for themselves. And trying to make connections and all of those things, but not doing anything substantial for our people. Just a lot of lip service, a lot of pandering and symbolism and things like that. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's what we've pretty much been given. And also, they love to use that policy of benign neglect, so they don't even have to tell us they're going to do anything significant for us. So, okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I know you're busy, but I want you to give out the website address again, and again, tell people how they can donate and all of the places where they can find you on your social media. And anything else that you have to say, feel free to go ahead.
that my election is now, let me go to my website. It's June 14th. I have a time on my website just so in case anybody wants to track it, they can. It's coming up really slow for some reason, but my election is June 14th, so that's like 20 something days away. And this is the final stretch. And, it was 24 days away. Okay, 24 days away. And I need as many donations as I can get because this is the final stretch. And therefore, it's the most important stretch. When I was driving to Williamsburg County, because I did a meet and greet in Williamsburg today, I saw something I had never seen before. I saw a billboard for Clyburn. I have never seen this man put up a billboard before. And the billboard said, vote for James Clyburn, June 14th. I have never, ever, ever in my life seen him up on a billboard before telling people to come out and vote for him. I think that tells me that he must realize this one is not a guarantee for him like he was thinking it is. But you know what, y'all? If you ever see someone run track, usually in that last little stretch, they may be about to win and someone comes up and pass them. I want to be the person to pass them, but I'm going to need y'all to give me that big, big push in my final stretch. So on Twitter, I am Marcel for Congress, the number 4, Marcel for Congress. Instagram, Marcel for Congress as well. Same thing, the number 4. Facebook, Marcel for Congress, the word this time, FOR. And on TikTok, Marcel for Congress, Marcel Dixon for Congress. You can donate to me by going to marcelforcongress.com/donate. Like I said, I need those donations to really get as many of my people on the ground as we can, because knowing Clyburn, he might try to flood the news with negative things about me, which if he does that, that will guarantee that he knows he's about to lose, or he may just flood the news with lies about how great he's been. He knows that our people are still not to a point yet where we're demanding specific policies specifically for us. So he may say, I brought $40 million to the district. So what? How much of that went into the pockets of your Black American constituent? Because every other group is living pretty good. We cannot let him get away with that. So I need to have people on the ground, because he can outbuy me on the radio. He can outbuy me on the air, but he can't outwork me.
That's right.
Shown by the fact that I've caught up with him, and he had a 30-year head start. Mm-hmm. I went from starting just 6-7 months ago, and in January having like $6,000 to now having over 100,000. Okay. Wow. It took Clyburn 30 years of selling out and not doing anything to get the little 3 million he has. So I can outwork him. And the difference is I'm going to work for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we're going to be rooting for you. And I know my subscribers are going to donate, and you don't have to live in South Carolina to feel free to donate to Marcel. Everyone, please, let's get those dollars out and donate to his campaign, because we need to get Clyburn. Fish fry Clyburn has to go. All right? So with that all being said, thank you so much for joining us and telling us.
Thank you for having me. I can't believe it's over already. It went by so fast.
I know, right? I know.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So like I said, we're going to be rooting for you, and we're going to be donating. And if you want to come back or anything like that, feel free. I'm going to be keeping in touch with you to see how everything is going. All right. So everyone,
please do.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone, let's get more fire emojis in the chat. Fire emojis in the chat for Marcel Dixon. Marcel for Congress. All right. And so with that all being said, oh, you're welcome, Terry Hinton. A Black woman stand up says late, but we'll catch the replay. Okay, beloved. All right. So with that all being said, everyone, please make sure you like and share. Subscribe to the channels if you haven't done so already. Make sure you subscribe to both of the channels, okay? The original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show and the Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur TV show, because you all know how channels get snatched out here, all right? And then this Sunday, stay tuned, because myself and Gavin Richard Esquire, we're going to be doing another collab, all right? So everyone, make sure you stay tuned for that. I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. Enjoy the rest of this lovely evening. And until next time, beloveds, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.